My wife flew to a sales conference. Then the ER doctor asked why she was found at a motel near home. Hi, I'm Jared, 38, and last year I went from husband and dad on autopilot to man who can't look at motel neon signs without seeing red. Sup, Reddit? Yeah, I know how that sounds, like I'm about to sell you a podcast or a protein powder. But I'm not here for that. I'm here because 1 year ago I still had a wife, a house, and a clean record. Now I've just got the house. Could be worse. At least the house doesn't lie to me and call it a misunderstanding. Back then, my life was basically a factory conveyor belt. Wake up at 6, make breakfast, argue with my daughter Chloe about screen time like I'm negotiating nuclear disarmament, convince my son Ian that yes, brushing your teeth is still required even if Minecraft exists, drive them to school, fight traffic, go to my job as a quality control supervisor at a manufacturing plant that makes industrial valves. Industrial valves, by the way, are not exciting unless one fails and turns a neighborhood into an unplanned fireworks show. So yeah, my job mattered. It paid well, had benefits, and it kept the lights on. My wife Rebecca, 36, worked as a regional sales coordinator for a medical supply company, which basically meant lots of travel, lots of client dinners, lots of late nights at the office, lots of perfume at weird times. But when you've trusted someone for 15 years, you don't interrogate their calendar like you're the FBI. You assume they stopped telling lies because you stopped needing to look for them. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Nothing is after 15 years. We argued about money, about chores, about why she was glued to her phone at dinner like it was surgically attached. She said I didn't communicate enough. I said she communicated too much with everyone except me. Normal stuff. Then came that Tuesday morning. Rebecca told me she had a 3-day sales conference in Indianapolis, packed the night before, laid out her outfits, even set her alarm for some ungodly hour to beat traffic. I kissed her goodbye while the kids ate cereal in the kitchen. She smelled like the perfume I bought her for Christmas. And yeah, maybe I should have wondered why she was wearing it to a boring conference, but I didn't, because I was a trusting idiot, and trusting idiots don't get gut feelings. They get blindsided. I dropped the kids at school, sat in traffic for 45 minutes listening to sports radio like a man with absolutely no idea his life was about to detonate. Work was chaos that day. We had a quality issue on the production line, gaskets coming out of spec. That sounds minor until you realize those gaskets were going into valves controlling natural gas flow. One failure could mean an explosion. So I spent 10 hours babysitting the floor, rejecting thousands of units and filling out enough paperwork to personally fund the paper industry. By the time I got home, it was almost 7. I made spaghetti because it was the only meal both kids accepted without acting like food critics. We watched some superhero movie Ian picked. I sent them to bed, and for the first time all day, I sank into the couch with that exhausted satisfaction that comes from surviving another Tuesday. Then my phone rang. Rebecca's mother, Janet. This woman could talk for 3 hours about nothing. One time she called me at work just to complain about the weather for 20 minutes while I was dealing with a vendor crisis. So I almost let it go to voicemail. But something, instinct, fate, God, whatever, made me pick up. And Janet wasn't her usual chatty self. Her voice was shaking. "You got to get to the hospital now." I sat up so fast my back cracked. "Janet, slow down. What's going on?" "It's Rebecca. Something happened. I don't know. Just get here, please." Then she started sobbing. The real kind. The kind where your stomach drops before your brain even catches up. I didn't ask another question. I just grabbed my keys. My mind ran every nightmare scenario. A car accident, a robbery, a heart attack, some random attack in a parking lot.
But none of those scenarios prepared me for what I was actually about to hear. I called my brother Mike and told him to come watch the kids. Didn't explain, just said, "Emergency," and he said, "I'm on my way." That's Mike. He doesn't ask questions when it matters. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Yellow lights, white knuckles, probably a few traffic violations I'll take to my grave. I left my car in a spot that definitely wasn't a parking spot and jogged into the emergency entrance. Janet was in the waiting room, eyes red, tissue wadded up in her hands. She couldn't explain what happened, just kept saying, "She's inside. The doctors won't tell me much. The police were here." The police. That word lodged in my skull like a nail. Police don't show up for a normal accident. A doctor finally came out, tired face, professional voice, the kind of woman who'd delivered bad news so many times she had to keep her emotions behind glass. She led me into a small office, and then she said the words that cracked the foundation under my life. "Your wife was attacked." I felt relief for half a second. Attacked meant it wasn't a car accident. Then she kept going. A bottle smashed across her head and face, multiple lacerations, deep stitching, broken cheekbone, possible permanent scarring, damage to her left eye. She was stable but sedated. I heard myself say, like an idiot, "She's supposed to be in Indianapolis." The doctor paused. Her expression shifted. Not sympathetic, not cruel, just careful. "Mr. Ashford, your wife wasn't brought in from Indianapolis." And in that moment, in that tiny hospital office, my gut already knew what my brain hadn't accepted yet. Rebecca wasn't hurt at a conference. Rebecca was hurt somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. And the next sentence from the doctor was the one that made my blood run cold. She mentioned that when Rebecca was brought in, there were signs of recent sexual activity. The doctor didn't say the word affair, but she didn't have to, because suddenly the whole world made sense in the worst possible way, and I realized I wasn't walking into a crisis. I was walking into the end of my marriage, and I hadn't even gotten the full story yet. I left that office like I was sleepwalking. My legs moved, but my brain wasn't caught up. Janet was still in the waiting room. I didn't speak to her, just sat down across from her and stared at the vending machine like it had answers. My phone buzzed, texts from Mike checking in about the kids. I answered on autopilot. Rebecca had been attacked, sure, but the why was clawing louder than the how. The next 48 hours were a blur. I bounced between hospital visits and home, pretending for the kids that everything was fine. Told them Mom had a bad accident, but she was going to be okay. Chloe, 14, looked at me too sharply. "What kind of accident?" I deflected. "We'll talk about it later." She didn't believe me. Ian, 10, just wanted to know if Mom could still make pancakes this weekend. Mike held it down at home. No questions, just did what needed doing. By day 3, Rebecca was awake, wrapped in bandages like a Halloween costume gone wrong. Only her right eye was visible. The left side of her face looked wrong, swollen under gauze, the bone underneath shattered. She tried to talk, said it was all a misunderstanding, that it wasn't what it looked like, that things got out of control. I shut her down with a raised hand. Rest. Because I couldn't take her lies on top of the image of her lying half-naked in some motel room with her face caved in. And not in Indianapolis. The hospital was full of awkward glances. Her family arrived in waves. Her mom, Janet, clung to nurses for updates they wouldn't give. Her sister hovered like a spy. Her brother tried pep talks that fizzled fast. None of them would look me in the eye. That's when I really knew. They knew. The motel name came from the cops. Pineview Motor Lodge, 20 minutes from our house.
I didn't hear the rest right away because I was too busy replaying everything. Every business trip, every late night, every time she came home smelling like perfume and gave me a kiss like it was an afterthought. The cops showed me surveillance stills. Her and a man, Garrett Keene, walking into a room, holding hands like high schoolers. Then, 2 hours later, shouting, a broken bottle. Silence. Rebecca had been sleeping with her district manager for 8 months. 8 months. Garrett ran when things went south, left her bleeding on a motel carpet. I thanked the cops like a man at a funeral. Then I walked out of the hospital and didn't stop until I was outside, breathing air that didn't reek of antiseptic and betrayal. At home, I didn't tell the kids the truth. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Rebecca came home 5 days later, bandaged, slow-moving, too quiet. I put her in the guest room, not our room. She didn't argue. Janet moved in like she owned the place, started rearranging my kitchen. Her sister camped on the couch. Her brother tried to talk man to man. "You gotta forgive her, man. She almost died." I looked him straight in the eye. "So did your second wife, right? Right before she got a restraining order?" He shut up. I smiled. nodded, played the supportive husband while everyone watched. But every night after they slept, I was in my study going through the folder again. Printed emails, receipts, GPS logs, phone records, evidence stacked so thick it could have been its own bookshelf. I was looking for patterns, anything I missed. Then I heard the knock. Soft, hesitant. I opened the door, and it was Chloe. She was in pajamas, hair messy, face blotchy like she'd been crying for an hour. She didn't walk in right away. She just stood there, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Dad, can I talk to you?" My stomach dropped, not because of what she said, because of how she said it. Kids don't look like that unless something heavy has been sitting on them for a long time. I pulled out a chair. She sat, wouldn't look at me. For a full minute, she just stared at the carpet. Then she whispered, "I should have told you sooner." I tried to keep my voice calm. "Told me what, kiddo?" Her hands started shaking. "Garrett came here last April, when you went to the Cleveland plant." My blood went cold. She said Rebecca told them he was a colleague picking up documents. Chloe didn't think much of it until later. She swallowed hard, and her voice went flat, like she was reading something from a script she hated. "Garrett came into my room without knocking." I felt my body stiffen. She told me what happened next, and I'm not repeating it. I can't. Just know this. Every word she said felt like someone twisting a knife into my spine. When she finished, she looked like she'd aged 10 years in 5 minutes. I forced myself to breathe. "Did you tell Mom?" Chloe nodded, tears finally spilling. "She said I was confused. She said Garrett would never do that." Chloe's voice cracked. "She said if I told anyone, it would mess everything up." I stared at my daughter like I didn't recognize the world anymore. "She made you promise not to tell me?" Chloe nodded again. "She said it would blow up our family." That's when something inside me shut off.
Like a breaker flipping. The affair? That was disgusting. But this? This wasn't betrayal. This was choosing a man over her own child. I pulled Chloe into a hug, held her until her breathing slowed, told her none of it was her fault, told her she was brave, told her I was going to fix it. Then I walked her back to bed. And when her door closed, I stood in the hallway staring toward the guest room where Rebecca slept. I didn't feel heartbreak anymore. I felt clarity, because now it wasn't about divorce. It was about war. I didn't sleep, not even a minute. I sat in my study staring at the wall until sunrise, listening to the house breathe like nothing had changed. At 6:03 a.m., I called my lawyer. He answered like he'd already been awake. I didn't bother easing into it. My wife had an affair. Her AP assaulted my daughter. She covered it up. Silence. Then, "Okay, we're moving fast. Protective orders, criminal report, emergency custody. Today." Next call was the detective from the hospital, the same woman who told me about the motel. I gave her Garrett's name again and told her what Chloe said. Her voice sharpened, like a knife being unsheathed. "We'll escalate. I need a formal statement. We'll get a child advocate. And Mr. Ashford, don't do anything stupid." I stared at my split knuckles from clenching all night. No promises. That day, I still did the dad routine. Packed lunches, school drop-off, Ian talking about some dinosaur fact like the world wasn't burning. Chloe quiet, eyes down. I wanted to grab her and say I'm sorry I didn't know, but I didn't. I kept things steady, because kids don't need your rage. Kids need your stability. Rebecca tried to catch me in the kitchen later. She moved slow, bandages still on, voice soft like she thought softness could erase months of rot. "Jared, please, I know you're angry, but Garrett, he manipulated me. I was scared." I turned and looked at her. That one visible eye flinched. "Don't," I said. She blinked fast.
Don't what? Don't say his name like he's the problem you accidentally stepped in. Her mouth opened, closed. Then she tried again, quieter. I made mistakes. That's when I leaned in, just enough for her to hear me without the kids hearing. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Her breathing hitched like she wanted to cry. I kept going, calm, cold. And your choices have consequences. I walked away before she could respond. That night, I went back to the folder, added Chloe's timeline, added every date Garrett was near our house. I sent everything to my lawyer. By midnight, the war wasn't a feeling anymore. It was paperwork, phone calls, and a plan. And Rebecca still didn't know why I'd gone quiet. She thought I was punishing her for cheating. She had no idea the Mercy was already dead. 2.5 weeks later, the police found Garrett. He was holed up in his brother's hunting cabin 4 hours north, probably thinking he could ride the whole thing out and disappear to some state where no one knew he was a predator. They raided the place just after dawn. No drama. He went quietly, probably thought he'd weasel his way out of it, like he weaseled his way into my house, my marriage, my daughter's safety. They called me that afternoon. We got him, Mr. Ashford. I should have felt relief, closure. Instead, I felt something colder. I hung up the phone, told Mike I needed him to take the kids for the night. He didn't ask why, just said, "Yeah, come drop them off." He saw my face and didn't say another word. At 4:30 p.m., Garrett made bail. $100,000 posted by his rich father. Paperwork takes time, processing, bagging personal items. Standard procedure. I sat across the street from the county jail, engine off, gripping the steering wheel like it might run away. I waited 3 hours. I saw him come out. Vestibule doors slid open. Garrett stepped out like he was late to brunch, property bag in one hand, that smug face looking around like someone owed him a ride. Then he saw me.
I was already walking. Not running, not yelling, just walking. Hey, he stammered, holding up a hand like we were going to talk this out. You touched my daughter. His face dropped. The smugness vanished. I hit him before he could say a word. The first punch shattered his nose. The second busted his lip. The third caught him as he dropped. He hit the curb with his cheekbone. Something cracked. I heard people shouting, felt hands grab me. A deputy slammed me down, cuffed me right there on the concrete. Cameras everywhere, witnesses everywhere. Didn't care. Blood on my knuckles, wrists burning from the cuffs. Still didn't care. They booked me in the same jail Garrett had just walked out of. I called Mike. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "I've got the kids." I spent the night in holding. Concrete bench, flickering lights, the smell of sweat and bad decisions. My knuckles were split. My wrist was swelling. I sat there staring at my hands like they belonged to somebody else. A deputy came by once and muttered, "Was it worth it?" I looked up. "Ask my daughter." He didn't reply. Next morning they processed me like I was some regular idiot who got drunk and fought outside a bar. Only difference? I was sober, and I didn't regret a thing. Charges hit me fast. Assault in the 2nd degree. Could have been aggravated. Could have been felony level ugly if the prosecutor wanted to make an example out of me. Garrett's injuries weren't small. Broken nose, split lip, 2 teeth loose, and an orbital fracture from meeting that curb. But the system isn't blind. It just pretends to be. My lawyer worked the phones. Clean record, stable job, full cooperation, no history of violence. And on the other side, a man who smashed my wife's face and was about to get slapped with much worse charges once Chloe's report got attached. By afternoon, the prosecutor offered a deal. They knocked it down to assault in the 3rd degree. Probation, 18 months. Community service, 80 hours. Anger management, 12 sessions. Restitution, $4,000 for Garrett's medical bills. The judge looked at me like he'd seen this story 100 times. "I understand why you did what you did," he said, "but the law doesn't allow vigilante justice." I nodded like a polite citizen. Inside, I was thinking, then the law should have protected my kid. I walked out with paperwork in hand and my hand wrapped in a brace. Mike picked me up, didn't lecture me, just drove. Halfway home, he said, "You okay?" I stared out the window. "I'm fine." He snorted. "No, you're not, but you're you." That night I went home and saw Chloe sitting at the kitchen table like she was waiting for me. She looked up, and for the first time since she told me, she didn't look scared. She looked safe. And that's when I knew, whatever I'd just done, whatever it cost me, I'd already won the part that mattered, because Garrett wasn't walking free anymore. And Rebecca, she still didn't understand the storm coming for her. 3 weeks later, the divorce proceedings began. Rebecca hired a lawyer, slick type, cufflinks, and fake empathy. He tried spinning the courtroom into a therapy session, claimed I was emotionally distant, said I'd pushed her into the arms of another man, pointed to my arrest like it proved I was unstable. My lawyer didn't raise his voice once. He didn't need to. We laid it all out. 8 months of GPS logs showing motel meetups, hotel receipts, texts, photos, secondary email accounts she thought I didn't know about, credit card charges for lingerie, jewelry, dinners, over $12,000 spent on her affair, with joint funds. Then came Chloe's statement, delivered by a child advocate, sealed to protect her identity. My daughter didn't testify in person, but every word was read in that courtroom. Every word. Rebecca couldn't even lift her head. Her lawyer tried to object, irrelevant to the division of assets. The judge didn't even blink. "Sit down, counselor." His voice turned to stone. Full custody to me.
Rebecca got supervised visits only, contingent on Chloe's therapist. The house stayed with me, 80% of our savings, my retirement untouched. Rebecca, her car, her clothes, and $5,000 to establish independent housing. 15 years of marriage, and she walked out with what barely covered a deposit on a rental. She appealed, claimed the ruling was biased, that her injuries were mitigating. Denied every motion. Her lawyer stopped returning her calls. Garrett's trial didn't take long, 3 days. His defense tried spinning Chloe's testimony as a confusion, a misunderstanding. The jury didn't buy it. They came back in under 2 hours. Guilty, all counts. 22 years, 12 for assault, 10 consecutive for child abuse. Parole eligible in 15. His wife had filed for divorce the week he was arrested, took their kids, vanished to another state. Good for her. I was in the courtroom when they cuffed him. He looked at me through the glass. I smiled. Rebecca's life unraveled fast. Lost her job, the surgeries weren't fully covered, her face remained altered, the kind of scarring that turns heads for the wrong reasons. She moved back in with her mother, working part-time at a drugstore. Chloe's healing was slow but steady. Therapy helped. So did seeing that the people who failed her paid for it. Ian never knew the full story, just that Mom made bad choices and Dad took care of things. That was enough for now. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Rebecca texted me from a new number. "We need to talk." She came over. Sat in her car for a full minute before getting out. I didn't invite her in, just stood in the doorway. She looked older, worn out. That scar down her face glistened under the porch light. The surgeries had helped, but not enough. "I just want a relationship with the kids," she said, "even if you never forgive me." I let her talk, let her cry, let her say how scared she was, how Garrett had manipulated her, how she'd been in a bad place. Then she brought up Chloe. I know I let her down. I was scared. He told me she made it up. I wanted to believe him. "You did believe him," I said. "You picked him over her. That's not fear. That's choice." Tears, begging. "Please, I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do." I shook my head. "There's nothing you can do. The damage is permanent." She tried one more time. "Can I at least see them someday?" "If they want that, it's up to them now." She stood there for a long time. Then she walked back to her car, and I closed the door. No dramatic music, no final shout, just silence. That night I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the stars come out. The house behind me was peaceful. Chloe had just made callbacks for the school play. Ian had started building a Lego castle that looked more like a death trap. And me? I was okay. I'd lost my wife, my clean record, my illusions. But I still had my kids. I still had my soul. And every night I sleep like a stone. Because some people don't deserve second chances, and some men don't forgive. I'm one of them, and I regret nothing.